What is up, guys? Fahan here with Hadi once again from Auto Exchange, and yeah, Hadi recently and Auto Exchange recently has a new fleet of bikes, which is the
CB150X, XXR 60 World GP 60 anniversary, and the CB Highness 350.
Thanks to all the riders who have been renting the bikes from Auto Exchange so far, and once again we have a new promo code for you guys.
Yeah,
15% discount when you mention I love Tambak Overlanders. Yeah. So today we're going to review the CB150X, and yeah, we'll see you guys in a little bit. Right guys, so let's get started with the riding review of the CB150X. It uses a key as opposed to a transponder, and interestingly you can actually shut and open the keyhole. It's like what you see in the Aerox. There's this nudge on the key right here for you to open back the keyhole. Let's mount on it. Right height is 81.7 cm. I'm 165, and I'm tiptoeing really high on this CB150X. It's a very tall bike. Okay, so putting it in, twist the ignition, press the starter. It sounds similar to the CB150R because they share the same engine, right? That's a no-brainer. The weight is 140 kg, so for a Class 2B, typically it's very light. Right, so let's get started. I like the suspension on this. Really absorbs the road imperfections, road markings, everything. I mean, it's an adventure bike. It's supposed to be that way lah. So performance wise, I would reckon that it will be very much similar to the CB150R, given that both bikes share the same engine. But when you're riding it, I feel like as if I'm riding a YBR and those 125cc update bikes. It feels cheap. Maybe it's because of the plastic cladding, very big and wide. Has a nice commanding presence when you're riding it, thanks to the right height. I think handling wise is very nimble, very agile, and any Class 2B rider who just passed out from driving school, they will have no issues riding or handling the bike. City situation shouldn't be an issue. It's only 8 kilometers on the odometer right now. It's a new bike, guys, so running in, cannot ride too fast. Definitely less than 80, but we're not gonna go above 90 anyway. So I have to say that in terms of the acceleration, it's pretty average. Nothing to shout about, nothing to complain about. Probably more than enough for the city streets. And it's a Class 2B, nothing really much to expect lah. Nice agile bike with decent performance. Okay, brakes on a dime, stops on a dime, but do take note, there is no ABS, which is a pretty strange decision on why they did not include that. They should include ABS. I mean, most of the Class 2B bikes nowadays, there's like ABS. I mean, especially the Yamaha bikes, like the 155cc, the MT-15, the XSR 155, and even the Wuyang series of bikes has ABS. Why can't they include ABS for the CB150X? And I'm noticing right now there's no kill switch on this bike. No hazard is still kind of forgiving, but there's no kill switch, so it feels cheap. I mean, I understand that this bike is cheap in the first place, like it costs like around 5k without COE, but then by removing all of these features, I feel like it cheapens out the experience. And just to save a couple of bucks for each model, you remove certain features that's on the bike. Like, okay, no ABS, I think is okay lah, but to remove the kill switch, come on, feels like a YBR and a Honda CBF 150, my old bike, Hidayah. There's no kill switch. Okay, so once again, bike is running in less than 80, but given that you're running on a highway right now, I think no problems, no issues, because the windshield is quite low. You can feel the full force of the wind on your face. But this bike is not meant to ride fast anyway lah. It's meant for you to do your daily riding for the day and maybe some light off-roading. But on YouTube I've seen Indonesians, they really bashed this bike off-road in the mud, in the gravel, everything, and pretty much holds up fine. I think this is due to the bike's taller travel suspension. You're getting Showa Fox with the Honda CB150X, which I must add is a nice touch. And in my observation right now, at 60 kilometers per hour at gear 6, I think this bike has simple clutch. When you're changing gears, really makes it easy on the hand. Clutch is very light, and I must applaud that. But yet it doesn't come with ABS. I wish it come with ABS, man. At least for the safety aspect, like doing an e-brake or something, it doesn't fishtail or lock up the brakes. That's really a letdown lah, in my personal opinion. But I gotta admit, riding this bike right now feels very much nimble, agile. Leans and corners where you point the bike to.
Following the design cues of the Honda CB500X and the NZ750X, the Honda CB150X is a budget-friendly cross-adventure inspired bike for daily commutes with light off-roading and touring capability. The Indonesian-made CB150X is mostly targeted for developing markets in Asia. It was launched in early 2022 with much fanfare. Engine is shared with the CB150R X Motion, Streetster and Streetfire, 149cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder DOHC with fuel injection and a 6-speed manual transmission.
So as always, we're going to start off with the rank posture. Okay, sitting on the bike gives a nice commanding presence. Arms aren't too stretched out, legs aren't too folded in, very comfortable to sit on, doesn't hurt my back at all. And it's this typical adventure bike sitting position which I totally love and am comfortable with lah. And the weight of the bike is 140 kg, very light, no issues with pulling it down from the main stand or getting on the bike. But I have to say that it's too light that it feels cheap. And the ride height is 81.7 cm and very much tiptoeing on this bike. So I think vertically challenged riders, especially below 165, will have an issue lah, definitely, no doubt about it. But given that this bike lightweight, right, at 140 kg, I think that should be a compromise lah if you're vertically challenged. And next, we're going to talk about the general design of the CB150X. And obviously, when you look at it, it's really appealing to the eye. It's a very, very nice design. And as you can see, it takes on the design cues of the Honda CB400X and the NZ750X. I personally feel that the 150X is very much almost a mini version of the third generation of Honda NC750X. This design right here, I feel that is copied directly from the Honda NC750X, the third generation. Typically, when you look at it, the general outlook is similar to Honda's cross-adventure tourers, with the angular lines, tall stance, bulky adventure body and styling with a giant bash plate. Really gives off a modern design and a rugged look. And yeah, as I've said, very appealing and attractive to the eye. However, it also feels plasticky and very much cheap lah. You can see the body panels, it's all plastic. Also, another thing to mention, I really love this camo design over here and really adds up to the adventure feel of the bike. So as you can see, the engine of the CB150X, it shares with the Honda CB150R, the Cafe Racer inspired, and also the Streetfire, which is an Indonesian exclusive. It's not brought into Singapore. But I just want to highlight this right here, which is the big aluminium skid plate or bash plate, which looks really huge, gives off a nice rugged look to the bike. And on first impressions, what material do you think this is? Metal, right? It's not. It's plastic. It's plastic, bro. When I first saw in pictures, I thought it's metal, but it's plastic. So really cheat my feelings, yeah. Honda, why? Why? And over here, as you can see, flanking the gas cap, there's some handles over here. It's actually for you to put, like, you know, tank bag. You can just slide under the handles, kind of similar to the second and third generation of the NC750X. And I really cannot help myself but to point out there's fake vents on the dashboard over here. Maybe it gives off a sporty adventure kind of look. But to my personal opinion, there's really no need for you to put the fake vents on there lah. And the logo CB150X really gives off an adventure kind of feel and vibe to it. And let's talk about handlebar controls. Handlebar controls pretty standard, straightforward, nothing too complicated, nothing too fancy. Also, no riding modes, nothing for you to toggle. It's basically high beam, low beam, horn, signal indicators, and to the right over here is the starter. No kill switch even, and no hazard light. It really cheapens the experience, in my personal opinion. The gauge cluster is a LCD, and I think some of the other Honda models also have this exact LCD. I'm not too sure which models. So the buttons you can toggle between the odometer, trip 1, trip 2, I'm not sure what this is, and average fuel consumption and average fuel consumption B. Yeah. I don't know actually what does it mean, but yeah, it has it. So we gotta talk about riding tech for the CB150X. As I mentioned before, LCD gauge cluster, LED headlight, taillight and signal indicators all around, and also inverted forks provided by Showa. And you can see the branding on the inverted forks end caps. It says Showa, highlighted in blue, which I really love. You know, it looks really nice and appealing to the eye. Basically, that's it for riding tech. There's no riding modes, no traction control, no ABS even. For a 2020 era bike, 2022 right now, there's no ABS. Why? Why Honda? Right, horn check for the Honda CB150X. I must say it's pretty loud and kind of high-pitched. Right, so just to let you guys know, Honda Bunsu did not officially bring in the Honda 150X. So basically, the individual workshops bring them, and the support and warranty lies with them lah. Just to let you guys know lah. So basically, a quick check on Carousel for the pricing of the Honda 150X. I've searched around. There's 3 listings. There's one listing, I presume there's no COE. Of course it is. It means it's too cheap. 6,550. There's another listing for 6,377. And one listing, presumably with COE, 15,288. And I have to say that what you're getting right here, minus the attractive design of course, with all the plastics, no kill switch, no ABS, no hazard lights. It's really value for money lah, the Honda CB150X. And pretty surprised that for an Indonesian bike, it feels cheap. I'd expect this sort of quality with the Wuyang or the Sundero bikes. Yes, everybody wants to save money. I think for the performance wise, it's pretty decent. Gets up to speed, maintains speed very well. No, I feel as if with the right height, with your commanding view, I feel as if I'm riding Class 2A or Class 2 bike, like the CB400X. It's kind of similar to the CB400X. Performance is pretty decent lah. But don't need to whack this bike, guys. I mean, it's just a Class 2B. There's so much that a Class 2B can only do, you know. I would think that this is much better than the Wuyang series of bikes in terms of performance. But for a Class 2A and Indonesian bike, I think it's pretty decent. But I cannot help it but to share my opinions that this bike feels cheap with all of the plastics over here and the fake vents. Oh man. I must say that I love the handles that is on the tank right now. You can strap on a bag and go for touring or adventure. And I think touring and adventure wise, this bike is not available in Indonesia. Even the CB150R is not available in Malaysia. So you have to consider if the parts and if anything happens to the bike, will there be parts availability in Malaysia or not. But in Thailand, I don't think there's any issue. This bike is also available in Thailand, and along with the CB150R, I mean, it's also made over there other than Indonesia. So I think bringing up to Thailand shouldn't have any issues lah. And in Indonesia, I've seen riders accessorizing the CB150X like a full-on adventure bike with crash bar, side panniers, taller windshield and everything. Oh man, they really emphasize the adventure on the CB150X. But then again, there are not much features on this bike lah. I mean, I understand Honda made the decisions that they had to make with the CB150X to make it cheaper to manufacture, but you cannot build your reputation around being cheap and not carry in negative incarnations to it lah. Just like the Tata Nano, you know? I mean, it's meant to be a cheap car in India for the masses to get motorcyclists off their bikes and into cars and build some loyalty to the Tata brand. But the Nano suffered a bad reputation for being a cheap bike, and it shows in its features and all that. And straight away on this bike, you know, after testing out so many other bikes, you can already see the cheapness of it with its lack of features and mostly plastic construction. Even the so-called bash plate that's protecting the engine is plastic. Really cheat my feelings, man. I thought it's metal, no? And they really painted silver to give the illusion that it's metal, but it's not. It's pretty disappointing that Honda did this. I mean, even the CBF190TR has a tiny metal bash plate to protect the engine. Pretty sad for the CB150X though. But you cannot deny that it looks very nice. It looks like the typical Honda cross-adventure bike with the big and the headlight assembly and the nice sleek body. In my personal opinion, really looks like a mini NC750X 3rd generation in terms of the design, which I'm not too keen. I don't really like it, but it's really appealing to the eye. Not sure how it would stack against the CB200X. That bike, from what I know, is made by the Honda Chinese counterpart, and it shares the same 184cc engine as the Wuyang Honda series of bikes. So hopefully we get a chance to review that. But from what I see, the obvious differences is that the signal indicators is on the handguard, and so if you drop the bike, and definitely the first thing the bike is going to hit the tarmac is the handlebar lah. It's going to be an expensive endeavor if you were to change out the handguard when you drop the bike lah. And it's an interesting design choice lah, but looking at it at that perspective, it would be better if the signal indicators are mounted on the body instead of the handguard lah. This doesn't come with handguard, by the way, so it's basically in its stock configuration right now. And fuel tank is 12 liters with a projected consumption of 40 kilometers per liter. I mean, fuel saving very much in line with 2B bikes out there, and also with the ride height of 81.7 cm, I would think that it may be an issue when for vertically challenged riders, but for me, I'm pretty much okay lah. But I'm tiptoeing even more on this bike. And I just cannot get over on how nimble and agile this bike is. Handling is pretty tip-top on it. For a Class 2B newbie who just passed their license, I think there will be no issues with handling and taming the CB200X. It's not that powerful of a bike. I mean, it's a 2B, what do you expect, right? How powerful you want the Class 2B bike to be? I mean, as much as some 2B riders modify their bikes to make it fast, at the end of the day, it's still a 2B. So get a Class 2A or Class 2 lah. At the end of the day, it's still a 2B. Even though they say RXZ is like can go 140, 150 lah, what lah, but it's still a 2B bike lah. So maybe with the lack of features, at least Honda could have compensated with adjustable windshield. But the windshield is not adjustable, sadly. Oh, not bad, gets up to speed pretty well. Love the super clutch on this, man. Really makes it a breeze to change gears. I think it will appeal to all of our Class 2B riders who are looking for an adventure bike. If it's nice, attractive design and it's attractive price point, I would say, I think it will appeal to them. But the lack of features really is a downside for me lah. Even though it doesn't have a kill switch, I wish they include an ABS on this for the safety aspect of the rider lah. I mean, it's really a letdown. But other than that, with the accessories that's available on the market, the popularity of this bike in Indonesia, you know, you cannot go wrong with a Honda lah. Whew. Right, so I'm gonna give my final thoughts and conclusions on the CB150X, and see you in a bit. So I've had the bike for 2 days. So let's start with the positive things first. Okay, so really Honda, they nailed it with the design and branding for the CB150X. Really ties it to the rest of the Adventure X bikes. Like, for example, the CB400X, 500X, NC750X, XADV. That is what I'm talking about, the X branding that Honda has. And they've brought it to the Class 2B segment, which is, my personal opinion, nice, thoughtful of them. And it's a sick looking bike, you know, it's really a sick looking bike with the adventure look and feel. My personal opinion is great for Class 2B newbies wanting an adventure bike as their first bike lah. And looking from what I've seen on YouTube, riders from Indonesia, they've brought this bike off-road, bashed this bike, brought it to the mud, to the gravel and everything, and really holds up well, surprisingly. The long travel suspension really provides a huge ground clearance for the CB200X. However, this comes at a cost for vertically challenged riders, and they may find it having trouble to mount or ride the bike lah, basically, and myself included. I'm 165 and I'm really tiptoeing on the CB150X. And now comes the downside lah. And at a price point of 6,377 based on the carousel listing, I have to say that it's really cheap lah. It's too cheap, whereby it removes some of the things that you expect on a motorcycle, like the kill switch. At least have a kill switch lah. I don't even know why this bike doesn't have it. It's too light that it feels cheap. And I would rather go for an ADV 150, I don't know, NMAX or an Aerox rather than this no traction control and really no ABS. Why Honda? Why there's no ABS on this bike? As much as I applaud Honda for coming out with a 150X, a cheap bike that everybody can afford, I would think that it should come with certain features like a kill switch and ABS. But this bike is mainly meant for Indonesia, developing markets, and the demand for an adventure bike which can take up a beating and really looking appealing to the eye. And at that price point, I would guess, Honda definitely has to cut some corners with the CB150X lah. Personally, I'm complaining because typically a bike will have ABS and a kill switch, but this doesn't. So it's pretty disappointing, in my personal opinion. Not a fast bike, decent performance. Other than that, no dealer support. It's a PI bike, obviously. The support lies with the workshops that brought in the bike lah. But I don't think it would be much an issue, given that it shares the same engine as the X-Motion and the Streetster. Both of those bikes have been proven to be a reliable bike, and I would say that it's good for Class 2B newbies who want an ADV inspired bike lah. And value for money, nothing too complicated lah. So once again, this bike is available at the exchange. You can code I love Tabak Overlanders for a 15% discount. Mention it to Hadi at the office when you want to rent this bike. And yeah, the promo is ongoing for not only this bike, all of Auto Exchange's fleet. And once again, Auto Exchange, Hadi, thank you so much for borrowing me this bike for the review. And yeah, that's it for the vlog, and we will see you in the next one.